नमस्कार एवरीवन। स्वागत है आपका आज इस रविवार की सुबह जहां हम चतुर्मासा पे एक चर्चा करने जा रहे हैं. आई वेलकम यू ऑल टू दिस discussion on Chaturmasa, which is a habit that we adopt as per the nature. Um, it's a very simple thought. There is no rocket science to it, but still, it takes the common thought of a common sense that we as human beings are a composition. We are a set of chemical engineering, I must say, and it's all based upon nature. We are also part of nature. So as it happens, there's everything in a rhythm. All the planets are in a rhythm. Every ray that falls on Earth every second is part of the rhythm that plays its role, which impacts us, our body, our thinking, our soul, our capability to do whatever we have to do for others. And that's why I think the food really plays a very important role, because food is the connect between us and the Mother Earth. And everything that Mother Earth produces goes into us in the form of food. And that food not only is important for our own sustenance, but it gives us the reason to think as well. It's also the food for soul. I came across this book through one of the authors, Rajesh. In fact, two of the Rajeshes of the book, and it's a very interesting, easy read book. And especially during these lockdown period, while we are in a spree of making new kind of samosas and pizzas at home and doing all kind of experiments with food, this book is definitely a breeze. Not because it's being written by any experts, but I must say it's beyond experts. They are practitioners as well, and they've practiced it themselves into this habit for the first time, which makes it definitely a remarkable read, because you can relate to the kind of challenges when you get into a new good habit. And what are we? We are just made out of our own habits. So this book, I think, is dedicated to the friendship of these five authors who came together from different continents, different time zones, and different habits, I must say, and of course professions. And despite that, they followed the routine. And I think the power of routine came because they were already in a routine of reading together. And selfishly, I will give the credit to reading for this. And considering there are a lot of people who would love to read this book further, I now request author and the main contributor to the book, one of the main contributors to the book, Rajesh Singh Ameduji, is joining us from America. We are hosting him for the second time. First one was for his book, which was Happiness Beyond Mind, which yet again is a very remarkable book. I would recommend to everyone. I've gifted that book to many as well. Very simple, very practical book, yet on the philosophies of life. Rajeshji, why don't you please take it over and enlighten us with your own journey through the other four contributors of the book, please.
Moji, first of all, thank you, and thank you to City Book Leaders and to everyone out here for giving us this opportunity to talk to you about our experiences. And we are very excited because we think that it's a very simple idea and a very powerful idea, not only to stay healthy, but also to contribute to the society at large, as well as to Mother Nature. So this is a book that we have written, Happy Well-Being Through Food and Discipline. And in this we talk about our journey of following a routine called as Chaturmasa. Several of you may be wondering what is Chaturmasa, and maybe I'll just take a minute to explain what the concept is all about. Actually, if you look at it very intuitively, without getting into the science of it, we notice that nature has cycles, and then cycles can be categorized in three broad categories. A daily cycle, we see that in once in every 24 hours, the same cycle repeats, right? Day and night, that 24-hour cycle. Then a monthly cycle, which is roughly about, let's say, 30 days. So you see that once in every 1 month, the moon goes through one phase completely, from going from a full moon to a no moon to a full moon. So you see that cycle. And then what people don't intuitively get it is the annual cycle that we notice, which is once in every 12 months, 12 months means 24 phases of the moon, it's the cycle repeats. So why is this important? In our scriptures, it is said that once in every 12 months, once the cycle repeats, each of these repetition basically creates seasons. So once in every 2 months, roughly there are 6 seasons broadly, and once in every 2 months, the season repeats, and then it keeps on repeating. Now, because of these seasons, there is a certain period, a 4 month period, starting between, let's say, roughly between mid-July to mid-November. And if you want to map it to the solstices, it is roughly about 1 month after the summer solstice to 1 month before the winter solstice. Those 4 particular months are pretty crucial because there is a significant amount of change that happens in nature, and seasons change. Because of the seasons, the way seasons change, the quality of food that comes out from Mother Earth changes. Therefore, the science behind this Chaturmasa, this is called Chaturmasa. Chatur stands for 4, Masa stands for month. These 4 months, our scriptures specify what we can eat and what we should not eat for us to be in tune with the changing nature. Now, you probably have seen, now I'm going to step back a little. You probably have seen that, you heard of Ekadashi, which is a fasting once in every fortnight. That follows the lunar cycle. And now, Chaturmasa is the annual cycle which we should follow. It is not fasting, it is just adapting to the changing nature and the quality of food that comes out during these 4 months. Now, the beauty of this is it's a very, very simple thing. And if you practice it if you practice it even once, you will see a lot of benefits in terms of improved health, improved physical, mental, emotional health. To the extent that, we have experienced, if there have been any chronic diseases that we've had. For example, I have been asthmatic, and I've had some chronic problems with my shoulder because of massive computer usage. They just go away without any medicines. And I'm pretty sure you will hear similar stories from my other co-authors in this particular thing. So with that, I just want to, tell you that it's been maybe about 6 years that I have been practicing. This is going to be my 6th year that I'm practicing Chaturmasa. And every year I look forward to doing Chaturmasa. It may sound that, you may have to sacrifice on your kachodis and all that, but it's actually not exactly true. And we will come to that a little later in the Q&A. But I'm going to stop here and perhaps, request my co-author, VP Rajesh, to share his first Chaturmasa experience. And I hope that you would find that inspiring.
Thanks, Rajesh. Hello, folks. So I did my first Chaturmasa last year, inspired by Rajesh. And let me just share why I did that, because obviously there has to be some motivation behind doing anything which is somewhat difficult. For me, the main motivation was that I wanted to practice what I was reading in the scriptures. So with Rajesh and some of other authors, etc., we have been reading Vedic literature and understanding that better. And there's a concept of sadhana chatushtayam in there, which I won't go into the detail right now. But one of the things is that you should be eating sattvic food. So I said, okay, well, I'm reading all this and this Chaturmasa is going to be starting. So why not practice that and see how it connects with the readings we are doing? So that was first motivation. The second was, I just thought we had come out of the lockdown, but the life was so uncertain last year during COVID period. So maybe I should give it a shot and try and losing some weight, because we are normally used to eating 3 times a day. And here we were supposed to go down to 2 times a day. So that was another motivation to try this. And the third was to test my willpower. Somehow as I was growing up, I had become a tea addict. I would get up and have to have 2 cups of tea to get my day going. And I would finish the day with at least 6 cups of tea. So here, one of the things was that you have to give up tea and coffee. So I said, oh my God, that's not going to happen, but let me try. And I have to say this, that with the benefit of the group and these recipes shared by Rajesh, I actually, over a month, I gave up tea. And now I don't feel the need for even having a single cup. I mean, I think I haven't had more than 3 or 4 cups since finishing Chaturmasa. And there is no need. There is absolutely zero attachment to having that. So, what I learned out of this is that this is all about disciplined eating so that your body is getting nourished and you have more energy to do other things that you thought you couldn't do. And that's the remarkable part. So, my assertion, and I know it's a bold one, is that if anybody tries it, they will definitely benefit out of it. The only question that will be in your mind is that to what degree, and that will depend on your commitment and your discipline. So, with that, I will turn it over to Mohit and Rajesh to take it forward. Thank you.
And while VP Rajesh just mentioned his habit of leaving the cups, I think I've already got some messages that, wow, this sounds exciting. We can try this too. So I think that first time picking up that habit, and that's very important, and that's where a community really works well. So I think amongst all your discussions, you can also focus on how a community, a good set of people, like-minded people come together, discuss something, get into a habit, actually brings a great change in life. And that's what would be very discussed too as well. Please.
Absolutely. Ajay, would you like to share your views? I'm just going in the alphabetical order here.
Sure. So like VP, I was a first timer, and I have to say I started Chaturmasa last year just on a whim. I was told by Rajesh like a few days before Chaturmasa. I wasn't sure why I should do this, and I decided just a day before, very much like Mohit I think is planning to do. But to me, it was more about, to begin with, it was all about novelty. It was a new concept. It looked interesting, and a bunch of us were doing it. So I was like, why not? But having done it, I think it has kind of appealed to me at sort of 3 fundamental levels. I think the first one is more philosophical, which is from the Vedantic perspective that, we're not the body and the mind, and therefore if you are able to, use your willpower and eat sattvic, that's a useful reminder of this fundamental Vedantic thought. The second was from a more sort of, religious or dharmic point of view, which Rajesh described about the change of seasons, and there is some science to why Chaturmasa has been practiced for thousands of years. But at a more practical level, for me, it was around changing my lifestyle. My lifestyle had become extremely sedentary. I was, this is obviously, some of it was due to the lockdown, and I wanted to kind of get back to my routine. So I started to walk. I started to eat right. I started to do pranayama, and at the bottom of at the back of your mind, you always have this thought that you want to lose weight, particularly around your waist. So I think the initial driver, I have to confess, was very much around the practical aspects of it. But as we progressed, it was much more than that. And as the other co-authors have said, it was a wonderful experience. I think it's something that all of us should try and experience for themselves.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you for that. And it was pretty good that we formed a group. We were exchanging recipes, and we were trying to encourage each other. And sometimes when somebody was missed a day or whatever, because they went back to the old habits, the group was there to pull them in. And that was pretty interesting way of, keeping each other motivated for a longer period of time. And remember last year, although Chaturmasa is 4 months, last year, because of the changes in the way that the calculation is done, it was actually for five long months. So, but still, we really enjoyed it. So Mahesh, why don't you take it away? And Mahesh is my brother, and he lives in Africa. And why don't you take it away and tell us about your experiences?
As regards to Chaturmasa, again, it was, as Sajay mentioned, it is still a novelty for us. I was wondering what exactly this Chaturmasa is. I mean, will it really helped me, or it was, it is just another type of spiritual practice, is what I was wondering. So nevertheless, I said, okay, let's do it and check if we can really get some benefits out of it. As a human being, do we really have any benefits in this? So when I entered into it, first thing I was told, as VP also mentioned, not to take any intoxicant like tea or coffee. So, VP progressively did it. I revolutionarily did it. Day one, I left coffee and tea. I also used to take 5 to 6 cups of coffee. From the day one itself, I left off. 2 days, my body was reacting, and the third day, it was so cool. Even as on today, even after let's say is almost 1 year now, as on today, whenever I want coffee, I can take. Whenever I don't want coffee, I don't need to take at all. It is not a necessity at all as on today. That is one great benefit which I see doing this Chaturmasa, where you gradually or immediately build up your mental fortitude, or your you develop your willpower due to a step taken towards a progressive life, and that can help you throughout your life. This is what I see with this 1 month of Chaturmasa. And second thing is that, normally when we in a normal daily routine, what we think, most of the time we think of food. Food, we have to eat this in the morning, breakfast, afternoon lunch, evening dinner, coffee. Whole energy is wasted in this. That is what I would say. And if you direct this energy towards a better goal or a spiritual goal, it can be easily achieved. If you look at it, we are eating only twice a day, and that to half a stomach. We are not filling our tummy as well. And so this gives more time for us to think on a progressive subject like a spiritual subject or any other subject we take on. I took on partly spiritual and partly on stock market. And rather I would say I progressed on both very rapidly. The amount of knowledge I gained during this 4 months on spiritual aspects or 5 months in the spiritual lectures was much more than the entire thing which I have learned in my life till time. And it was reflecting, every moment it was, it was telling me this is a better thing to do. Like when we are hungry, we think of food. Or when we direct this energy towards spiritual practices at that point of time, it develops a mental fortitude. It is not necessary that we should fill up our stomach always, and so that we don't remember doing our work or something like that. People say when you have a stomach full, when you work, you don't think of food. But I would say, even with half a stomach or 3/4 of stomach, you still need not think of food while working. So, even the work gets better. As Rajesh mentioned, there are chronic illnesses which can be cured as well during this time. I had a severe backache and left calf muscle. This I would repeatedly say, whoever I've been asking me. And the left calf muscle was there for almost 18 to 19 years. And it was paining throughout. And within 1 month, I didn't even know when it was vanished. And slowly it got vanished away. Similarly with my back pain as well. And I can also list down the host of benefit. My snoring has also vanished. My back pain has also vanished. My left calf muscle also has vanished. And on top of that, I see myself building a mental fortitude in developing toward the spiritual way. That is the way one I would say, which will help us in building a better community for us throughout our circle and groups and beyond our groups as well. So I would recommend everyone to look into participating in Chaturmasa for a better world.
Thank you, Mahesh. And I think the proof of the pudding lies in when you convince your spouse to join. That's the proof of the pudding. And Mahesh, you've been great in getting Sudha to join this Chaturmasa from this year. So Vivek, there are some questions coming in, but Vivek, would you like to please share your experience?
Yes, thank you. So, there's a question about what food is prescribed, and we'll go into that. The book has quite a lot to talk about. But I'll say this: it's more a feast than a diet in the sense of it is controlled eating, but the choices are many, and the difficulty that I found was in giving up what we hold as healthy, but turns out to be not that good for us, and adopting new ways of eating, new rhythm of eating. So that's where the challenge is. But it's really a feast. My own, I don't have much more to say, save that it works best with a spiritual practice. And the five of us were part of a Gita study group for most of the year earlier, for 6 months earlier. And many of us were doing meditation practice together before that. So part of that, and I came at this having come from a Delhi-based Punjabi family. My mother's over here on the call as well. Overeating is the normal way of eating, is how I've grown up. But I came to a point in 2018, 19 that I was questioning my relationship with food. I also work in sustainability. So, our impacts on nature as humans was also something that was weighing on my mind. So all of this came together when Rajesh suggested this. Another time in my life, I would probably have said, no, not for me, I'm happy the way I am. But there were lots of conditions that guided me towards this. And the output was, as my friends have very well explained, I won't repeat that. The health benefits are there. But it was, I personally learned, I couldn't keep to the whole course, to be honest, because of what I said earlier, and that the change in habits was too much for me to keep up with. But I realized what my inhibitions were. It brought that forward for me. It realized what my desires were, which were not necessarily right. And what our part in nature is. That is a good way of learning through this as to how we impact nature, what part we play in that. The fact that we did it in a group really helped because, yes, there were tough days. The very first day, I did not have coffee. I love coffee and drink it. For the very first day, fast, no coffee. I had never fasted more than the time I slept, i.e. 8 hours. And 24 hours later, with no coffee, no food, no water, I chewed out a colleague of mine. We came down to, we were on the telephone, thankfully. It might have been to blows, actually. So those are transition issues to talk about. But so over to you, Rajesh.
I have a suggestion, Rajesh. Considering the initial hiccups that Vivek has already mentioned, it's about a change of habit. And I think that's what he slightly mentioned, that being in a spiritual journey, being with like-minded people, I think that really helps because someone is there to answer your queries. And we have been listening and seeing this and observing this in our other such forums too, be it any subject, so much so be it ancient wisdom about any subject. I think if you can just give a brief of it and then about the recipes and also a very interesting calculation. I don't know who amongst of you have done that calculation of how much food can we save for the world. And I think that's a remarkable piece of information that this book carries. The millions of people can be served if we all start following a basic routine and saving food and this luxury. So I think if that can be mentioned, I think that'll be a great journey to cover up.
Absolutely. Let me tell you before answering some of these questions together here, Mohitji. Let me tell you about the fundamental basis in which this Chaturmasa works. Right, there are two things: quantity and quality of food. Right, quantity of food. We know that. Let's talk about the quantity of food. One of the things that really struck me was that a statement, a Sanskrit proverb. Although I don't know Sanskrit, but here is what it says. It says that, if you eat twice a day, you are a yogi. Yogi means someone who sustains your body. If you eat thrice a day, you're a bhogi, someone who is an enjoyer. If you eat 4 times a day, you are a rogi. That means you're likely to fall sick. And if you eat 5 times a day, you're a drohi. That means you're eating somebody else's food. Now, this struck a chord in me. And then when I mapped it onto what Chaturmasa is all about, Chaturmasa is all about, the 4 different months, 4 different types of foods have to be avoided. And it's a very, very simple rule. The first month, no vegetables of any kind. Second month, no milk. Third month, no yogurt. Fourth month, no dals. Dals means like, anything that can be broken into dicotyledon or polycotyledon. That's it. This is what it is. Now, there are only two things that we have to take care. Every month, focus on what you don't have to eat and make all the dishes with other items that you're allowed to eat, right? And second thing is, cut down on the amount of food intake that you take, for simple reason, health benefits. Let's take that as a reason, and then go about it. Now, if we follow this for 4 months religiously, then one level of benefits start accruing to us, which is at a physical level. Now you marry it with some additional benefits, because at the end of the day, think about it this way. None of us here would ever say that this body is me and there's nothing else beyond the body. All of us know we have a mind, we have an intellect, and we have sensory perceptions, and that constitutes our personality. It's not visible, but it's much, much more powerful than what the body is. How do we take care of those parts of our personality? That's where input starts coming in as very important in terms of the right level of inputs. Not just the food, the amount of TV that you watch, we can cut it down. That's an input for your mind, right? The amount of binge watching that all of us do, and things like that, right? So that's these 4 months working together with a group of people who are following this day in and day out, who are committed to their own well-being and to the well-being of others. You can get motivated with each other when you have a like-minded community like this. And Mohitji Vidya help. We are happy to start up a community here and be part of this particular thing, to buddy up with people, to help them on the path of getting on to right living and healthy eating as part of their life. We'll be very happy as
Ajayji, I don't know about others. But for my own personal habit, I will have to do that. For sure.
Right. So that's all. It's a very, very simple rhythm. The rhythm is, and think about it intuitively. Science has a different way of measuring food quality in terms of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, and all those things. But our science, the spiritual science, measures it in only 3 qualities: sattva, rajas, tamas. Right? Sattva is that quality that when you eat certain type of foods which are called sattvic, and we have a list in this particular book, it's very easy for us to develop a mind that is very perceptive. So when you're in a conversation with people, if somebody is saying something, you are able to perceive the real reason why that person is saying, because your mindset is attuned to understanding it very well. Now, there are certain other types of food which is called rajasic, which means they make you do a lot of work, physical work and mental work, thinking, or a lot of physical work, certain type of food. Then there is a certain type of food which makes you lethargic, and you will not be able to do anything. Think about this, okay? You keep the food you cook food today, you keep it in the fridge, and let's say you eat it after roughly 24 hours. Trust me, the quality of food has changed. It has become, although it's a sattvic food, whatever definition that you have sattvic, just keeping it in the fridge, reheating it and eating it will make it into tamasic food. Tamasic means the moment you eat it, you're going to sleep. Your bones, your muscles will start developing those, whatever that phosphates or whatever that is called, or lactic acid or whatever that they call it, right? That will make you get into the mood of lethargy. Now, all we are saying is, look at the type of foods that you're eating these 4 months. Look at the quantity that you're eating. Eat as much as what your body needs, no doubt about it. Okay. But if you're able to eat mindfully, Mohitji, you were saying 32 times, chew it 32 times and eat it. You can see that the amount of food that goes down, that you're able to eat, will go down. And also remember one thing, the stomach, the physiology of the stomach itself it's a very small organ. Can you believe it if I tell you that the stomach can hold only as much as food what your 2 hands can hold? That's the quantity what your stomach can take. Now think about it. How much more times we stuff it in, push it in. Now the stomach can't digest. We can't digest that much of food. And that settles down somewhere as fat. That settles down. gives rise to diseases. So these are all the things that can be avoided. And most importantly, working together in a group, someday I slip up, someday you slip up, but we are there for each other, covering each other's back, buddying up with each other. And that's the power of working together in a group for a regimented 4-month period of time. There are going to be some challenges, and initial challenges especially, and I'm not going to talk about it, but I will request my co-authors who finished their first year of Chaturmasa to tell about maybe 1 or 2 challenges that they faced and how did they overcome it.
The one practice that I really enjoyed, which I couldn't believe I could do at all, was fasting for 36 hours. And as I said earlier, I've never thought of fasting. And I've never really realized why fasting is such a great thing. So how I found there's, given that I'm used to eating every 2-3 hours, and that to large quantities. There is a period after the 36 hours starts in the evening after dinner on day 1. Day 2, you're not eating or drinking anything, and day 3, breakfast is when you break fast. So there are 2 periods of sleep over here. In the afternoon of day 2 is where there's a challenge, and there were times I could do it. There were times I couldn't do it, and what I found the difference between the 2 was if I prepared myself the day before that this I have to get past. I have to do this. And that worked for me. For each one, it'll be individual, but that worked for me. And also seeing that Rajesh did it so well, VP Ajay, Mahesh, they did it all so well. All of that helped enormously in saying that I can also do it if these guys can do it. They're perhaps a little bit better than me. That's what that was my big challenge. And of course, the sleep, particularly in the second day, was just so beautiful. There is a little loss of energy, but then over time I learned how to do, go for. I did 4 between my 2 meals. I did 4 5K walks towards the end. So that 36 hours actually is a lot easier than, at least for me. Other things are more difficult. But I'll stop here.
Well, there are 2 challenges, especially during this 4-5 months, which we need to tune on to. One is cooking without onions and garlic. So as we're aware, without onion and garlic, the taste of food, we can't imagine. And if we have to cook food without onion and garlic, first of all, that's a challenge. Second thing is, it's a challenge to convince your wife to do it. Because there are 2 parts of it. One, she has to cook for herself and for me separately. What happens when we don't eat onion and garlic is I've seen this personally. The physical force inside us, is in a rhythm when we don't use onion and garlic. I believe, I read it somewhere that it affects our prana directly, or the life force. The onion and garlic affects the life force directly. And this has been directly experienced by me. When you don't eat onion and garlic, it actually, you have a high energy flow in you, and you can disconnect yourself from the body level and see from within, yes, this is happening, and you can have a better control once you have this a slight disconnect without eating this. So that has been a major challenge, especially for the cooking and eating as well. And second thing is eating that food. We have to develop that habit of eating food. Although we feel that some may feel that it is not tasty food, but the fact is that it is more tastier than when it is without onion and garlic rather. That is one thing which we have to understand this. And third thing is that over a period of time, you will notice that it is you are giving so much importance to onion and garlic rather than eating what you want. We have to eat, fill up our stomach, and move ahead. That is the main criteria to learn or to progress in a particular life. Then we focus on what are the ingredients in the food and why it is so important. That is sheer waste of time. Seriously, if you look into it, so much of energy is wasted into that. And this is what this progress can help you a slight, as I mentioned, slight disconnect, and you can observe your mind during this time and develop positive qualities as well. When you are irritated, you can develop poise. When you feel that you are irritated by something, and you can develop poise. When you are angry, you can actually develop calmness into it. The spiritual qualities or the sattvic qualities automatically comes in with these benefits during this time. This is what I have observed, and this is my personal experience. And of course, doing as Vivek was mentioned, Ekadashi, and initially I was doing it with water, and in the second week itself I was doing without water, total Nirjala Ekadashi. And the amount of the mental strength which you get with this, I would say is enormous, really, really enormous. And really the benefits one can have with this, I can't describe in a word or two. I would rather look forward to doing it again.
So let me share
Mahesh.
my challenge, Rajesh. Let me share very quickly my challenge and answer one of the questions that is keeps coming. So for me, it was the last month was very difficult. And what happens in the last month is that you are giving all the lentils and anything which can be broken into two pieces, any seed which can be broken into two pieces, and that was very um, challenging for me, very frustrating to me to say, okay, what are we going to eat then in the last month? And what you're left with is only root vegetables, which is potatoes. And at that time, in that season, you're getting shaljam and some other things. So then, we went and did the research to see what all recipes are out there on the internet that can be made with only limited ingredients. And that was a very good way to test yourself that your body doesn't need a whole lot of vegetables of different sorts, or excuse me, lentils of different sorts. You can just do with only root vegetables also, and grains and rice, etc. So that was, and obviously I mentioned about tea previously. But then one question that keeps coming on the chat is about, some may have less muscle strength and some may have other problems. So yes, that's true. You can have, you'll have to listen to your body carefully. And at times, if something is not sitting well with you, then you can always stop doing that. But the idea is that you try and push yourself to give up these things and see how your body reacts. And in most cases, as we all experienced, that it will respond very positively. So that's what I wanted to say about. But yes, we are not none of us are doctors. So we are not giving any kind of medical prescription that you will solve this particular medical condition or that particular medical condition. You have to just listen to your body. I think that's the most important part. That's all I wanted to say.
Well said, VP. Yeah, that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, the body is the biggest teacher for us, and it'll tell us, okay, hey, and we will know. There's a thin line between following what the body says and pushing the body to do what you want to do. So there's a thin line, and you'll be able to figure that thing out within the first 2-3 days. That's no doubt about it. Ajay, what's your view on some of the initial challenges?
So before I get to the challenges, there are a couple of things I wanted to state. One is that, this whole Chaturmasa is all about one, moderation, and two, discipline. So as Rajesh described, you eat sattvic food, you eat twice a day, you don't eat anything that sort of disagrees with your fundamental body system. So it's not a fast in that sense. There are actually two kinds of fasts which are interwoven into Chaturmasa. One is, as Vivek described, is the Ekadashi, which happens every fortnight. But the other one, which is interesting, is that because you eat twice a day, you inevitably end up, giving your body a 14 to 15 hour break between dinner and breakfast, because it is advised that you eat dinner before 6 or 6:30. And if you have breakfast at about 8 or 9, you automatically just get a 14-hour break, which is very akin to intermittent fasting, which is very much in vogue these days. And what this 14-hour gap does effectively for your body is that, one, it helps you digest your food before you sleep. And while you sleep, the body is able to heal itself, right? So in a way, sort of, this is something which happens automatically because we eat twice a day. In fact, I always wonder, where did this tradition of eating 3 times a day ever originate, right? In terms of challenges given this regime, for me in particular, I think the most difficult one for me was the whole thing about late night cravings. I would eat dinner early, as advised under the Chaturmasa regime. Then at about 10 o'clock or 10:30, I would want to eat something. I would kind of make do with the fruit sometimes. I would probably munch some nuts, probably more than what I should eat. But that was, to me, the most difficult part initially, in terms of following this 2 meals regime with almost eating nothing in between. The way I kind of dealt with it was that I would just try and eat even if I ate something in between, I would make sure it was healthy and sattvic. I think the second challenge is really around, I think Mahesh alluded to it, is around the fact that we live in a family. It's one more thing to do for the spouse, and it's not easy. You need to make sure that you have the support of your family, because that is some sort of a precondition to doing Chaturmasa. So something that I want to highlight. And the third thing which I wanted to say was that please do not think of this as eating sada khana, unappetizing food. It is actually more sort of tasty in some ways once you work with a group of people and identify new recipes. We have a number of them which are in the book, and actually you will realize that the sattvic food is often more interesting and tasty as compared to the food that we've gotten used to eating.
So let me first let me talk about why not no vegetables for the first month, right? There are three reasons. One very simple reason is when it rains, what happens is that there are a lot of insects that kind of start attaching itself to the vegetables, and they cause problems. In fact, I was researching in terms of the number of diseases outbreaks that happen, especially in the US, for example, during the period July, August, September, October. What I've realized is cases of Escherichia coli and a couple of other problems happen during this particular period of time, and it's very simple reason. The reason is the certain types of insects or bacteria or microbes, whatever that you call it, that causes this, gets itself attached to the food. And the reason is very simple. That's because nature is making those changes happen. Therefore, our scriptures say avoid, right? And also the deeper reason is in terms of the balance of what can be digested by a human body at a particular point of time, based on how much energy. When I say energy, consider that as working in collusion with the nature. Our energy goes up and down, right? We see that quite happen on a daily basis also. So those are the reasons why we don't eat certain things and we don't follow that particular regimen. Now, what has been my regimen, right? It's been about 5 years that I've been doing this Chaturmasa, and with amazing benefit. And I think as long as I'm alive, I'm going to do this. And my routine is very simple. I eat just 2 meals a day now. Sometimes around between 9:30 to 10:30 is my first meal, and then the next meal is between 3:30 and 4:30, or maybe 3:30 and 5 p.m. And my first meal is slightly, usually, within the restriction of that particular month. It could be a simple, food with rice. And we discovered, and thanks to VP Rajesh, we discovered red matta rice. Red matta rice apparently has much more proteins than dals. So it's very easy to mix and match with different kind of food combination. You'll start experimenting with that to create a quote unquote balanced meal from a Western point of view, from a science point of view, at the same time respecting the rules and regulations of Chaturmasa. So it is very simple meals that you eat. Now, there have been times when I get very hungry, right? Then I don't beat myself saying that, no, don't eat more than this. I just go grab a fruit, grab a nut, or grab some fruits and some nuts. No problem with it, as long as I'm conscious about what I'm doing. Only if I'm mindlessly eating, then I beat myself. If I'm not mindlessly eating, but I know, yes, I have to do this, I'm going to do this. And I go ahead and, eat those fruits and vegetables. So no problem with it. And a couple of other questions that I'm seeing here, and maybe we can take that. VP, you might want to talk about
Yeah,
herbal teas. Tea is a
yeah.
favorite topic of yours.
Yeah, so I think, yeah. So, um, ideally, the idea is to get away from all sorts of tea, whether they are herbal tea or whether they are your black tea with milk and all that good stuff. Um, but it's up to you. I think the more you move away from this, the more you detach from these urges that you have, the better it is. And to the extent you can't do it, as Rajesh was saying, I think the idea is to do it very consciously, that I am stepping out of my Chaturmasa mode and I'm going to do it because I really need it. But then, as I was saying earlier, that it took me a month to get away from tea. So each week, what I did was I said, okay, this week I'm only, earlier, last week I was having 6 cups. This week I will only have 4 cups. And that's how I gradually did that. So maybe something like that will work for you if you are trying to get over your herbal tea urges. But the Chaturmasa, in that sense, it's a good, strict diet period so that you can cut these cords, which your body doesn't really need, but we have started to somehow accumulate these bad habits. And then there's a second question about acidities, which I want to also answer, Rajesh. I think on the acidity, headache and acidity. So, when Vivek was talking about the Ekadashi fasting, and I tell you, when I started 2-3 years ago doing this Ekadashi fasting, by evening I would have severe headaches. And I would just say, okay, what do I do? This is really unbearable. And then I would just break my fast and have a banana or something to get over that. Um, but what I realized during the Chaturmasa period, the body became so easygoing that you don't feel it, you don't get any headaches. So it's a matter of just training your body and also your mind that you don't need it. And once the body starts understanding that, see, right now, body is giving you a message that, boss, you haven't fed me for 14, 15 straight hours. Where is my food? I need something. And that's what the body is trying to tell you with headache and acidity, that you're breaking a pattern. Now, once that pattern is broken, then, it will just become a very smooth glide path for most people. I mean, I can't say it is for everything because I'm not a medical doctor, but this is what we have seen in practice among the 5 of us, and what we have seen otherwise, people who do Ekadashi fasting. So that would be my answer to that question.
Vivek, I see that you raised your hand.
Yeah, there was a question about being diabetic. So I have raised. I'm pre-diabetic according to metrics here. I was, and I also was on statins for cholesterol in 2018-19. But that I have stopped. I don't need statins any longer. And part of that is Chaturmasa helped accelerated that process last year. And also, I think so. But however, none of us are doctors, so please consult. Depending on how severe your ailment is, do consult. But do it. There is no, So the rules are very strict, right? So we're not taking part in a test match or an ATP Grand Slam tennis tournament. There's no prize, save for our own good health. If you feel that's being disturbed, slow down. Take parts of this practice. The practice is sound, but you have to imagine it's 4,000 or 5,000 years old. People have been doing it silently and having a good life. So eventually it's meant for everybody. But do it at your own pace and take bits and pieces of it if that suits you better.
So there was a question on energy levels, and I just wanted to kind of share my experience on that. I eating less and doing the Ekadasi fasting as well. In addition, I've been walking 7 to 10 kilometers a day, walk plus run, and I was worried, in fact, that would mean that I would be more tired or I'll be low on energy. On the contrary, I actually felt more energetic because of the quality of the food that we were consuming and that we were eating right. So I think that's something which is a natural question which comes to mind, but I can assure you that that is not the case as long as you're eating right. I think this one more point I want to make is that while there's a framework of Chaturmasa in terms of what you eat and when you eat, etc., and each one of us have our own sort of way of doing it, in the sense that there are no sort of rules that you have to do this and you cannot. There are a few rules, but there are no broad sort of. Each one has to adapt based on their own body and how it reacts to different situations. So if you feel a headache, don't kind of beat yourself too much. If you have a craving, let it kind of take over once in a while. If there's a birthday of a child at home, it's fine to kind of tell yourself that today I'm going to enjoy a kind of a normal dinner, if you will, with the family. So again, it's very much sort of each to ourselves. You make your own rules and stay with it. That's the whole kind of idea of this Sankalp.
Yeah, thank you, Ajay. I know that we are running short of time. Maybe I'll just conclude by saying, answering one last question here, and then probably, talk about the economics of, how this can help people in hunger, and then the calculation that Mohit you mentioned that we wrote about that in the book. So there is not. The question is, is the Chaturmasa possible for us in countries where rains are not there, as it is here in Abu Dhabi? We don't have a lot of data, but anecdotal evidences show. For example, I live in the US, I live in California. My brother lives in Ghana, in Africa. Vivek is out of UK, and Ajay and VP Rajesh are from Delhi. So anecdotal evidences from 5 of us from 4 different continents has shown that the benefits that is coming to each one of us is more or less similar in terms of better physical health, improved mental health and happiness, and tangible results: reduced weight, lethargy gone, all sorts of results which we have documented here in our diaries, right? Please read that. But is there any scientific evidence whether this is going to work and all that? My intuitive answer is that food chains across different parts of the world have been disrupted because of refrigeration, because of transportation, because of all kinds of things. We get mangoes even in December here in the US. So what are we talking about? So there's a problem there. So the other part of it, moving back to the other thing in terms of how the calculation in terms of just by doing Chaturmasa or fasting, how much money we can save. My calculation shows that even if you take $5 out of US, or let's say 50 rupees, in India, it's a lot of money. And in a month, if you think about just one person, 2 ekadasis in a month, and cuts down 1 meal a day. So we're talking of 30 meals reduced and 6 meals, 36 meals. So 36 into 5 is $180 saved in groceries and in food. And out of India cost, let's say 36 into 50 is roughly about 1,800 rupees saved. So what I'm saying is that, to evolve spiritually, there are multiple ways. One of the important ways is to donate to people who need. Okay. And the biggest donation, all of us are, from India, we know Annadanam is the most important thing. As part of writing this book, we are supporting a non-governmental organization called Diagar, and all the money that come from the profits of this particular book are donated to that. Not only that, some of us have chosen to give this part of the money that we are saving by not eating to Diagar. So, think about it. There are 700 million people in the world who go hungry every day. And if we are able to cut down and become more healthy, we save money, and then we have a choice of bringing them out of that particular hunger. So with that, I hope, Mohitji, we have concluded well on time, and I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Rajeshji. I think while there are a lot of questions coming in terms of how do you manage it if you're traveling, if your job is of like that strenuous capability, I can say, though I eat very early, I follow a very Jenny practice in my personal life. I eat around 5:36 before sunset. And but a very interesting thing that was a part of your book was that you can start your breakfast with mangoes, and mangoes do work very well. And this is the season, right? So I am actually hogging a couple of mangoes every day, and that has become part of the family tradition now. And it works because mango is very filling. So if you have it in the breakfast, say around 9:30, 10ish, you can actually avoid your meal in between as well, or any other snack in between. So it works very well, I guess. It's a very personal choice. I think everyone will have to adjust to their bodies specifically, and that's why Rajesh ji, we thought we should actually call an Ayurvedic Vaidya, and none other than Gigi Gangadharan ji, who is one of the most known scientists in terms of Ayurveda. He's coming next Sunday. So I must say that that is a continuation to this discussion that we had today. And for me also, that's how it happened. I read your book first, and then I read his book, which is Ayurveda, which is slightly more technical, but has more details in terms of, while you mentioned insects, but he also mentions about the impact of the kapha, vata, and pitta during this season specifically, and all other seasons. So to all the people, I think that would be a great way of engaging yourself into this good habit. That's our part of service. We would be bringing in more such experiences across such good habits that can be inculcated. We look forward to have everyone for the community that we intend to build. The details which we will share soon, considering everyone's time zone and how it can be progressed. That's from my side. Anything that any five of you would like to say before we close the session?
I would just very quickly add to what Rajesh said in terms of the sustainability aspect. So some of the back of the envelope, calculations we do. Chaturmasa diet means we'll probably eat about 800 grams a day. Normally, normal sort of North Indian diet, perhaps, and knowing you guys, South Indian diet as well, is about 1.2 kilos a day. So if you take it in a year, the difference between that half a kilo or 400 grams that we choose is something like 200 kilos of food. And that 200 kilos of food has an input. What goes into Mother Nature to produce that? In a vegan diet, it's about 2x. So that 200 saves about 400 of input. If we add milk, it's about 600 kilos of input. If you, the monthly. So the planetary, the sustainability impacts of this sort of diet in the aggregate are huge. We could, in totality, if the entire world's population started doing this, we would save arable land in the size of all of Asia if we adopted these practices and it became mainstream.
I think possibly we'll be able to add one more continent because of the food wastage that we do. And if you see, that's the biggest problem in terms of the energy as well. In one of the facts that I read, it's actually equivalent to 700 million whales, the size in terms of the food wastage that we do as human beings, which is ridiculous, especially in these times when we have come across migrant workers who are not able to get food for multiple days. And I think that's the idea. That's a good habit that we all can inculcate, and through the Dicharya. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and special thanks to all five of you. As friends, as batchmates from college, you came together on a good journey, and that's what happens when you start making good sangathan, good community together. I look forward to the Chaturmasa diary too, possibly, with a lot of people who have joined in here today. I got a message from Dr. Alka Pandey as well. That's my point. I will now leave tea anyhow.
And Mohitji, like I said, it's an open request. If you create a platform where the listeners are interested to join in, we are ready to jump in and buddy up with everybody and make it a success.
Yes, we should do. And definitely we will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mohit. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.